Tanium Converge is our annual user conference. If you are new to Tanium, this episode today, I'm going to feature 2 hands-on labs that are perfect for people that are coming to Converge for the first time, or maybe who've been users of Tanium and haven't gotten a chance to try out some of the broader features of the platform. So stay tuned for today's episode of Go-Tanium Tech Talks. Today, this is part 2 of a Converge Lab preview. Yes, we're looking forward to seeing you in person in Austin, Texas, November 14th through the 17th. And today on the show, we're going to feature the next set of 2 Converge Labs. Now, of course, there's way more. We did 2 on the last episode, 2 on this episode. There's way more than 4 Converge Labs. There's a ton of them out there for just about anything you'd want to do with Tanium. So if you haven't registered, I'll just go ahead and say it right up front. Go to converge.tanium.com and sign up today because these labs fill up fast. But before we get too far down the road, I want to go ahead and give you a preview with the lab owners here for 2 different labs that are coming up. And the last show was on threat response labs. This show is on labs that are more appropriate maybe for beginners or people who've not experienced Tanium before or have no prerequisites. So if you're looking for some labs, maybe you're fresh, or maybe you've been focused on one particular module in Tanium and you want to understand some other capabilities, these 2 labs I'm going to feature today are perfect for that. So stay tuned. At the end of the episode, I'm going to talk more about how to sign up and also a special opportunity for you to be on this show live at Converge. All right. So let's take a look at our first lab. Joining me on the show today is David Morgan. Now, David's been a TAM for a long time. I'm going to ask him about that in just a second. It's been a while since David and I have got to actually even chat and catch up. We've in the pre-COVID days, we got to see each other at some events. So, David, I'm glad you finally get to be on the show. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you. It's great seeing your face and hearing your voice again.
Yeah, and how long tell me, because I know I just crossed 5 years with Tanium. How long have you been, because I'm pretty sure you've been here longer than I have.
It'll be 7 years in December.
Wow, man. That is awesome. So, David, you're doing a lab this year, and obviously in 7 years, you've done a lot of things here at Tanium. And you've been a part of Converge. You've been a rockstar team helping our customers. So your lab here this year is a little different. Tell us the title and where did this idea come from?
The title is Breaking Silos and Making Friends. The concept really came about over the last number of years, especially working with partners. So I've now supporting partners rather than customers. And what I've seen is that you typically have one entity at a customer purchase Tanium, but it really can be leveraged across the entire organization, right? So usually you see us in the SOC and using threat response, but they really don't care about patch or deploy, but they have, they're telling other people to go out and patch stuff or fix an application and update an application. And it really speaks to that whole issue.
So David, you gave us a little bit of this here already, but what's the problem you're trying to solve in this lab?
I'm trying to solve more of a process problem, to tell you the truth. Companies and organizations, federal government, commercial, it doesn't really matter. You typically see things around a vulnerability scan. We'll just kind of pick on that. You get this vulnerability scan that's hundreds of pages long. And that PDF file used to be paper back in the day when I first started, gets handed off to your Windows administrators, your Linux administrators. Then they say, go fix this. And what does that administrator do who doesn't have enough time in the day to even get that done? He either starts on that list and doesn't get through it before the next 100-pager comes through, or he throws it in the garbage and nothing ever gets done. So I'm really trying to address that one specific problem and highlighting how the Tanium platform itself can not only find areas that need improvement, but also affect change appropriately across the entire ecosystem.
So we're talking about breaking silos, making friends, kind of shaking hands across the aisles, to use a political metaphor, right? So this
Mm-hmm.
is the opportunity to really bridge some of those gaps in the organization where traditionally people have just kind of stuck to their own tools, but when you've got a common tool set, it kind of makes it a little easier. We've talked about it. Why don't you give us a little teaser here? Just show us a piece of what people can expect to see in this lab.
Sure. We have 5 or 6 labs. I think it's 6, might be 5, and they're all centered around that central story of finding something and fixing it. Um, and we're going to make use of what we call personas. Same type of concept as RBAC roles, right? So but because we have one user, we want them to be able to see those 2 different roles and how they can see and use Tanium differently. So one of the tasks you're going to do is the Windows administrator, for example, has been asked to stand up a Microsoft SQL database to create a staging database and asset. So what we're going to do in the lab is we're actually going to create a view in asset, and then we're going to take that view and put that into a staging database. So quite simply, you're going to go much like you would do an asset in normally, is we're just going to go into view, and we're going to create that view. And notice I am using a risk analyst, and I don't have that ability to create the view. And this kind of is highlighting those things. So I'm going to change that persona and into my Windows administrator, and they actually have the ability to create a view. And notice it's a lot different. I have some extra options here if I wanted to add attributes or what have you, but I'm going to go ahead and create a view, and we're going to call this staging database. And we're going to create some things that we want to capture. Maybe we want computer name, and if we just do a search for IP address, CPU, we want maybe the number of cores, maybe the manufacturer, the processors, and the speed, RAM. And let's see, what else might we want to get? Maybe we want to find out disk space, total disk space, and something that's going to be important is operating system, right? So we're just going to create a very simple view right now with some just common information. And this may or may not actually match up with what we're going to be doing in the lab. And then we just submit that. Now from here, we will go into Connect and establish a connection in the database, and then push that information into the database. And you'll see that data go ahead and populate. This is one method of getting information into a CMDB. Obviously, asset can also just directly connect with ServiceNow or with Flexera, but if you're using Remedy or another CMDB, we'll create a view like this and say, go ahead and use our open REST APIs, which I think opens up a great discussion for the next topic for today, using the REST APIs and how to get that information.
Yeah, when I was looking at all the sessions that are coming up in the labs this year, I noticed this one ticked the box on nearly every module. So I'm really curious, who do you think would benefit most from attending this lab?
Realistically, anybody. And I mean, I'm if you're a threat response person, it's great to kind of see how the Windows admins live, right? And what their life is like. If you're a Windows admin, it's nice to see what the threat response team does. And if you sort of think about it, it's very rare when a Windows admin can get the same view into the same types of tools that a vulnerability team gets, right? To see what are they seeing, what types of information are they seeing in comply. And it's very rare when a risk analyst can see what a Windows admin does to create a policy to enforce a machine policy in enforce, and to see how that's done. And realistically, my hope is that that's going to start some conversations between teams, or at least get some ideas out there on how do I reach across the aisle, to use that term, to start to work together and to start really affecting change at the speed and scale that Tanium can actually provide.
Yeah, I was thinking as well. You said anyone could really take this, and this would be a perfect lab for somebody who's new to Tanium, just to get an
Absolutely.
idea of what's going on across all the modules, what their capabilities are, how they work together, how you can do the RBAC, like you said. So this is a fantastic intro lab, and that's why I wanted to feature it on the show as well, because we have people of all skill levels. So if you're new to Tanium, check out this Breaking Silos and Making Friends lab. Now, David, as we close up here, what's the one most important thing you want people to take away from this lab?
You don't have to do this alone. Um, you can get help if you want to be able to ask for that help across the across teams. There's been many times in the past where a threat analyst or a risk analyst says, "Hey, we've got to shut down WannaCry or Log4j. How do we do that? I need help." We know it's there in the environment. We need to identify that. And then you have administrators that are going, "I don't know if I have that." And looking at and using Tanium as that same single pane of glass really allows those teams to communicate and use the same language, almost like a Rosetta Stone.
Rosetta Stone. Now there's a metaphor. I love that one. And Tanium's a lot like that. It helps different teams to come together and find the same language, the same tooling. People process tools. When you standardize on the tools, it makes those processes a lot easier. Well, David, thanks for coming on the show today and giving us this preview of what's coming hands-on in the lab coming up in Austin. We look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you.
So that was David Morgan giving us a preview of the Breaking Silos and Making Friends lab. Again, a fantastic overview of Tanium modules, capabilities, RBAC, all those topics to help you kind of get a big, broad view of what is Tanium about. Now, we're going to move into our second lab that we're featuring today. And the reason I wanted you to see this lab is because this is one of those labs that's been offered several years at Converge. So if you're new to Converge especially, or if you've maybe just taken other labs and you've not gotten to this one, you want to make sure you get into this next lab. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I want you to meet Don Gearhart. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself, and then we'll talk about his lab. Welcome to the show, Don.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm Don Gerhardt. I'm a TAM. I'm based out of the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania region. And I've been with Tanium for a little bit over a year now.
Is it really just a year? Man, it seems like I've seen you around in Slack for much longer than a year, because I know we've had several conversations around helping customers. I'll just tell our folks who are watching at home, we hire some real rock stars here, and I see Don as one of our. Every TAM's a rock star, but he's active, he's engaged, and he's helping lots of accounts solve some big problems. And I'm going to take a guess that this lab that he's about to tell you about has been a part of that. So Don, tell us, what is the lab title? I've been waiting. I've not given it away yet for our folks. What is the title to your lab, and where did the idea for this lab originate?
The lab is called Get Started Leveraging the Tanium Platform and Module REST APIs with the TanREST PowerShell module. And the idea really is kind of to showcase what I think anyhow is the fastest way to get started leveraging the APIs to automate tasks with the least amount of kind of friction. This is a great way for beginners to get started with the API.
So that's what we're doing today, is we're featuring labs that would be ideal for beginners. And granted, automation is not a beginner's topic necessarily, but maybe you're an automator, you've got some scripting skills, be that Python or PowerShell or whatever, and you're looking, okay, now how do I hook this into my world domination framework that I've been scripting and crafting in my organization, right? So what's the core problem you're trying to solve with this lab, Don?
Right. So this actually came out of a customer problem. What happened earlier this year was a customer came to an account team with some concerns about needing to create a very large number of packages in the deploy module. And they were moving from one tool to another, and they had thousands of packages to create. And they really hadn't done anything yet with our APIs. And to be frank, neither had I yet. I hadn't really been with the company very long. And so, what we had put together was just a small set of scripts to help them, create everything needed to upload a file and create a package and even create a self-service profile so that you could get that out to your users. And so, this is kind of a refined version of what we put together for that customer.
I have to say that is tantalizing. That's a big 50-cent word. Tantalizing. I mean, just the normally there's things like, okay, I want to ask a question or take an action, but you're really going for some good meaty content in automation here. Because that's a common story, right? People have invested blood, sweat, and tears. I literally had this conversation with a customer today. They've had this, they've really invested in this other platform for deploying their software. It's not working for them anymore, and they're shifting to Tanium to deploy their software. So, yeah, that whole migration. This sounds like a really interesting lab. Can you show us a little bit about what you're going to do?
So what we're going to do is, we're going to walk through not just creating the packages, but also, working with some of the platform tasks that are kind of prerequisites to getting everything out in the environment. And then we'll dive into deploy to do, the package and the self-service profile. So, starting with platform actions, we're going to start by authenticating with the API. We're going to ask a question. We're going to deploy a platform package, in this case, custom tag. And then we're going to use that tag to create a computer group. We can actually go ahead and run this. And what we should end up with is, at the end of the day, we should have an endpoint that receives the tag, and we should get a computer group based on that tag.
You know what? After all these years, it still gives me joy to watch automation just work. It's all the time I'm saving as I watch those scripts run.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that changed my career trajectory a little bit when it finally clicked to me. I was never a good scripter or programmer, and then one day PowerShell just kind of hit me upside the head. I had the right use case for it, and it worked out. So yeah, we can see the action that it's taking, and we are printing some stuff to the console just so you can kind of see. And then you can also see the computer group object that it creates. And if we hop over into the console, we're kind of going to do the same thing here. So if we hop into the computer group, and if I remember what I called this computer group, deployment group, see, we have a new computer group, and it's a pretty simple expression, right? We're just looking for custom tags contains deployment group. And hypothetically, if everything worked the way it's supposed to, we'll see a computer name pop up here.
So I'm thinking, number one, who would you recommend to take this lab?
Really, I think if you have a little bit of PowerShell experience, and I don't think you need a ton, as long as you're familiar with the basics of PowerShell, and you're interested in finding ways to integrate systems or automate tasks that, maybe are tedious to do in the console, I think this would be a great one for you. I mean, I've seen a similar session at a different conference when I was, at an earlier point in my career, and I went back to my hotel room that night and spent the whole night scripting away. And I'm hoping that somebody who's early on their journey the same way I was, 5 years ago or however long it was, feels kind of similarly like, oh, I can do this. It's not that hard, and it unlocks all these cool ideas I've always had and never knew how to do.
Oh man, that's so great. So kind of building on that, then what's the one thing that you want people to take away from this lab?
I think it comes back to that you can do it. Like, you don't have to be a computer science guy or, a software engineer to be able to automate and work with REST APIs. I'm not. I'm a sysadmin turned script monkey, and I love this stuff. I live for it now. Just being able to find these use cases and bring them to life is really exciting. So I hope that it encourages somebody who maybe feels like, I don't know if I've really got the right skill set for this. You probably do. You can do it.
as you were saying that, it's almost like I could hear Rory Prendergast cheering in the background, right? And if you folks don't know who Rory is, go check out the Tanium YouTube channel and just put in RORY. You'll get to meet him on several video interviews we've done. He's all about encouraging developers and admins to get in there and get their fingers in the scripting, right? So Don, thank you for carrying the torch this year for this session with the 2022 edition of the PowerShell API Lab. This is always a big hit with our users and folks who come to Converge sometimes just to get to talk to people like you. So thank you for, I know there's a lot of work that goes into this, so thank you for all the work you put into the lab.
I'm excited to do it, and I'm excited to attend my first Converge this year.
All right, congratulations, man. We'll see you soon.
Awesome, thank you.
There you have it. 2 great labs for beginners at Converge coming up here very soon, November 14th through the 17th, live on hand, live in person, hands-on, in Austin, Texas. So again, go to converge.tanium.com. As a matter of fact, when you go to converge.tanium.com, you're going to look up here on the right side for the little drop-down menu. Go to the labs, capture the flag, and certifications. Now, I just talked to the folks that run this event, and they said the lab registration is going to close very soon. So if you've not registered for the labs, get on that today. So when you go to this site, these are our technical people here at Converge, right? So the labs, capture the flag, on-site certification exams. I talked about a little bit more in detail on what these things are. So on the previous episode with the threat response folks at the end there. So go check that out. Lots coming up, hands-on labs, capture the flag, on-site certification exams. Yes, you can get your TCO, your TCA, and the new Tanium Certified Specialist in Cloud Deployment for Tanium Cloud. So lots of opportunities there for you to get your hands on with Tanium. But more than that, you'll get to meet the people who are creating these labs and the experts who are servicing customers every day, and they can answer your hard questions. So bring those questions with you. Hopefully you've got a notepad or some notes on your phone that you can bring with you and say, okay, look, these are the things I'm coming here to find out because I know I'll be able to meet the experts in person. Also, there's some guidance here if you want to find out which lab's right for you, and then check the lab roster, okay? This is where you're going to find a list of what are the labs available for me to sign up. So you can search and find, notice it's got the difficulty there, which modules are covered, and you can just filter this list by those different modules and so forth that you want to focus on. Make sure you go out there and register ASAP because these labs, some of them are, if they're not completely full, they're almost full. So make sure you get out there and do that as soon as possible. And I really look forward to seeing you in person at Converge this year. Now, I said at the beginning of the show, I've got a special opportunity for you. I plan to be there recording some video for this show. So I'll be recording some interviews with customers and folks at Converge like yourself. If you'd like to be on this show, and because we would love to meet you and love to share your story with how Tanium has helped you so it can help others as well. So I'd love to meet you there at Converge. So look for me there and look for the goatee running around with the camera. And I'd love to spend some time with you, meeting you in person at Converge, and then featuring a little bit of your story here that we can share on the show with others. So I look forward to seeing you very soon, here just a couple weeks in Texas. And until then, Go-Tanium.